Hi, welcome back to another episode of Anyone Can Paint. This week is starting a brand new painting. This painting is going to be one of the paintings you see at the beginning of the show. And we're going to try and get something that's very, very close to that. This is a scene that's got the river in it with the little waterfall and the cabin that's in the background. So let's go ahead and get started. We're going to use the large brush and start up in the sky. Make sure you get it wet, then towel dry it off. And we're going to start with some white, a little bit of brown, and a little bit of blue. We want this to be a grayish color. A little bit different than what we usually do. And I grabbed way too much brown. I think we're going to add some white to that. That's a little dark. And maybe a little bit more blue. That's a little better. Just going to be a grayish kind of a sky. Maybe a little bit more blue to that. We're going to bring this down. We're going to have some large pine trees in, if you can remember that painting. So we're going to bring the sky down to about where I have it. We're going to go all the way across though. I had that little arrow up in the corner pointing towards the left. That's the way our sky or our sun's going to be coming in. Is from the right hand side. And I need to make up another batch of that. Again, that's some white, a little bit of blue, a little bit of brown. I'll go right back up and throw that in. A little bit more blue. And again, just show this in. This is going to have a lot of trees in front of it. That's a little bit better. And just work that in down to about there. All right. And without cleaning the brush, we're going to start putting in some pine trees, and these are going to be larger ones that are further back, so these don't want to be too dark yet. This is going to be some white, some green, and some blue. Again, you want these to be far back, so you want these to be fairly light. Again, remember that the sky is still wet, so that's going to have a little bit of influence to this color. And how I do that again is I just get it to the chiseled edge, make the top, and then I start working this in. I'm going to need to get a little bit more blue into that. That's just a little too green. That's better. So just paint right over top of that. And then just kind of paint with the corner of the brush, putting more pressure as I work my way down. I'm going to bring it right on down to about there. We're going to have some other trees in front of that, so you don't have to worry about, I guess, bringing it all the way down. You want these just to kind of barely show up. We had a bunch of these. And just with the corner of the brush, going through, just tapping down. You can go back and adjust any of the sides if you need to, or the center. Let's put a couple more. Again, I know this probably doesn't show up very well. This is still incorporating with that wet sky color we put in. But it kind of fades it out and makes it look like it's further back, so there's nothing wrong with that. Just kind of bring that around that little cabin. And we're going to make up another batch, and we still have a few more to go on the opposite side. And we're going to put some right on there. I'll put a little bit of white tack, got a little dark. Now this is not going to be an exact duplicate because it's impossible for anyone to go back and do a painting that they've already done and for it to be exactly like it was, because every day that you paint, things are going to influence the colors that you use and the way that you put things on, and maybe if it's a painting you haven't done in a while, maybe you've learned some new techniques and you do things a little bit different. All those things are real and can happen. So, but this will give you an idea of how it was done. Get these big guys in, and then we'll start doing some pine trees that are in front of that. They're going to be a little darker and a little bit closer. We're just going to continue across. Again, just using the corner of the brush. Just tapping in, and as you work your way down, you put more pressure into it, so your brushes kind of the brush makes your bristles spread out more because you're putting more pressure into it, and little branches just come jumping on out of there. Spot here, a little taller. And again, it's just the corner of the brush, just pressing in real firm on the canvas. Maybe one more. Again, don't be afraid to go back and kind of adjust any of the branches if you need to. Alright, just about like that. Alright, we're going to clean that brush out. Then we're going to bring another layer of trees in. They're going to be in front of those. And these are going to be a little bit darker. We're going to use our medium flat bristle brush for that. Same color combinations of some blue and brown, but not quite as much white. And if you mix it right in that same pile, you'll probably pick up some of the lighter color, and that may work out just about right. And make sure you kind of go up and test it. Yep, that's a lot darker. In fact, I'm going to put a little bit of white into that. There we go. All right. Now these are going to be trees that are a little bit closer, so we're going to put these maybe even a little bit shorter. Maybe these aren't as old as the other ones. Again, just kind of going in and tapping, but you just want to focus on getting the nice little edges on the branches. And then the center, that doesn't matter. You can just blob that in. It's not a big deal. I'm going to reload and be right back. Put one right in there. And just with the corner of the brush, as you work your way down, you just get wider, wider, putting more and more pressure into your brush, or into the canvas. Now reload, be right back. I've mentioned before, I kind of like to do pine trees with a flat bristle brush because they always end up looking different from each other. Some folks like to use like a fan brush, and they do make nice trees, but unfortunately every tree looks the same as the tree before. And if that's okay for you, then go for it. I kind of think like every tree is probably a little bit different. Has a little bit different shape. Right, maybe in here. But this kind of ensures me that I do end up with trees that look different from the ones before. That kind kind of goes behind the cabin a little bit. I'm just going to reload. And let's put one here. I need to make another batch. This skin's going to be a little bit of white, a little bit of green, and a little bit of blue. And just kind of chisel out the brush a little bit. And again with the corner. And bring it right on down to the ground area. Just got a couple more to do over on this side. Put one in here. And we still have another row of trees to put in. But I think what we'll do is we'll start blocking in some of the rest of the painting so we can get off the trees for a while. Because you might be tired of watching it, and I'm getting a little tired of doing them. So we'll give the trees a break. And we'll put a couple more in that have that value to it. Just a couple more, and then we will move on. And these tend to be a little difficult to make in the very beginning when you first start doing these. But if you keep trying and keep following the technique, you will get it, I promise. And remember, you don't have to make the perfect pine tree because there are not many of those around. They all have some little history to them that something happened. I'll put one here. And then let's clean this brush out and get away from pine trees. All right, then we're going to start blocking in the grasses and the weeds. Now we have an area that's between the cabin and the river. We'll block that in, and that kind of comes around this way, so it's going to entail all that. Then there's this other part here. Then we're going to block in where the water goes. So we're going to use let's use our large flat bristle brush again. And this again is going to be just some green and blue. And you can just grab this right on your brush if you want to, just like that, and just bring it right up to your canvas and start blocking it in. This is going to go right up underneath the base of our trees. You can just fuzz that line up a little bit there. Looks like some grasses or something. I'll be right back. I'm just going to grab some more of that same color. And I'm just going to finish this off going back here. And bring it right down to the river. So we have a little bit of land that's in there. And we'll bring this color around. Again, leave this real blotchy. This is all going to get covered up. Don't spend a great deal of time trying to make sure it's all smoothed out and everything. You're just going to waste your time. I don't want you doing that. I'd rather you focus in on the other areas later when you can put more time to them and maybe a little bit more detail and a little bit more attention to it. But underpainting, again, you're just blocking in areas where things are going to go. I mean, we did the detail to the trees back there because those have to go in first. But this part in here, again, is just the underpainting. And we're just kind of blocking it. This is going to come down just like that. Into the corner. Now what we're going to do is we're going to focus on this area in here. It goes all the way back, and then all of this. And that's that little peninsula that sticks in there. Again, with the same colors, green and blue. Bring that right down to where the river is. Just work this up right up into the trees. We still have a few more trees to put in the foreground, but that will come later. Again, just nice loose strokes. Don't smooth this out. Don't try to get it perfect. The areas that are just going to get covered up, which is usually all underpainting. Like I was saying, don't waste your time trying to get that perfect. It just needs to be dark. It just needs to be thrown in there with very nice loose brush strokes that go in every direction you can think of. Just enough to cover up the canvas. Have a little bit more. Bring it right down to the river's edge. Almost had enough. Let me grab just a little bit more and we'll finish this up. There. Nice blotchy, just throw it in there. Let's go ahead and clean that brush out. Next thing we got to do, obviously, is we're going to block in where our river goes. This is going to be a little bit of white, a little bit of blue, and this can be on the darker side. In fact, it's almost better to be darker blue than it is to be light blue. Again, we're just going to kind of throw this in here. Just work that back. Again, just throw this in. Remember, like we always do, is that we always do a lot more work on underpainting. So this just kind of reserves the area where we want things to be. A little bit more paint. And if you have to go back and mix another color and it doesn't come out exactly right, it's not a big deal. Don't even worry about it. I often, and I will today, go back and probably give some darker spots. Just because in real life, things aren't always one consistent color. You can always find some darker areas, some lighter areas, and that's true with almost anything. So don't feel like you got to spend time trying to get the exact color. You can see those are off by a little bit. So now I'm going to go through and just block this in a little bit more. I know there's going to be a waterfall there, so I want to darken that up. And there might be a little bit of rapids and things in here, so just kind of, again, put it in haphazard and don't worry about it. Like I've said before, sometimes you can take advantage of these things. Some strokes will give you some ideas about putting something different in than maybe what you had planned to do, and that happens often. So just remember, the looser that you can put these in, often the better your painting will work out. All right, I'm going to go back a little further. All right, let's go ahead and clean our brush out. I think what we should do is probably finish up these pine trees that are going to be in this side. Now, these pine trees are going to be closer, actually on the opposite side of that river. So let's go back to our medium-sized brush. And this needs to be a darker color, so this is just going to be primarily green and blue. There's not going to be any white to this at all. And we're just going to put a couple trees in here. So I'm going to have one Again, same procedure. I got it to a chiseled edge, did a nice little point. Now I'm using the corner of the brush, going through, just tapping. And as I work my way down, I start putting more and more pressure into the canvas. I need to reload. The reason I use this size brush is that I get a little bit more detail to the edges because it's closer, so it can afford to have a little bit more detail. The negative side of that is it doesn't hold as much paint. So probably going to have to go back and reload at least once, maybe twice. I'm going to bring this down right over that so it pushes that back. And again, this may be a little difficult to see, but when we start putting in our weeds and things, that will make a little bit more sense. I'll make a little bit more. And we'll put another one in maybe here, change the height a little bit. And the corner of the brush. I kind of thought this was a good spot because we can cover up some of that. We can also cover up this so we kind of get that layering effect. And again, I didn't do anything special except put in a tree in a strategic area that you can take advantage of that. And again, in the center of this can just get blobbed in there. Let's just do a couple more. Maybe get a little bit more paint. Let's put one in here. We'll kind of vary the height of that one. Gonna drop down a little bit to show the point of the tree. Then it's light pressure at first to show the smaller branches. And just continue to work down. Again, in the body of the tree doesn't matter. Really what matters are the ends of your branches. And just bring that right on down. See how you get this nice layering effect? You see a little tree behind there, that goes back. You can just get that nice sense of some real distance in there. I mean, it's a heck of a lot of pine trees. Oh, let's put one here. Again, corner of the brush. You can see how I just kind of blobbed in the middle because, again, the center of the tree doesn't matter. It's really all about the edges. And just work that in. Good. Let's go ahead and clean out the brush. I think we have one more pine tree. I'm really considering doing this last pine tree just so we can be done with these. Let's just go ahead and do it since we've really got that color on the palette. It's against that green and blue. This will be the last one we do for the whole painting. So I'm almost as excited as you are. Right there, make sure this is darker than those. Corner of the brush. And just work your way down. Again, in the center, no big deal. Just focus on those nice little branches. This one in particular, because this one's going to kind of be standing here all on its own. So I just kind of work the way out and lighten the pressure, just kind of tapping. Again, in the center, doesn't matter. You just want these nice little branches sticking out. And work that right down into our underpainting. There. Now let's clean this brush out. No more pine trees. Good Lord. Must be like 23 trees in there. Alrighty, next thing we need to do is to start blocking in our cabin. This is going to be done with some brown, predominantly brown, and just a little bit of blue. And how I like to do this is kind of frame it in first. And I get the brush to the chiseled edge so I can kind of control the little points on it, or the edges. And I I'll work it like this, and then I'll do the front edge. And then I do the side edge. And then I just kind of come down the front on both. Then what I do is just kind of block this in. And it helps me get all my angles, and just makes it a little bit easier. This part you're just kind of filling this in. Not a big deal. And also there's a little bit of an overhang that's in here, so you're going to see part of the wall back here. We'll grab a little bit more paint and get a nice little edge here. And then we're going to do the roof. And let's clean out our brush. We're going to add a little bit of blue to that color to darken it up, and that little overhang that we just did a minute ago, I want to darken that up a little bit more so it kind of stands out from the roof and the roof of the building, of the little shed we're going to put right there. So that needs to be a little bit darker. And I think that's as far as we're going to be able to get today. Next week when we come back, we'll finish blocking in our cabin. Then we'll start working in the foreground and blocking in some rocks and doing the same routine we usually do, but keep just continually work forward. Thank you so much for joining us today. We appreciate your loyalty and tuning in. Next episode, this will start coming alive a little bit more. Try this out. You're going to have a blast if you start painting. I promise you will. Grab some brushes, grab some paint. I can help you get started. Visit the website and I can show you how. Until next week, grab and do this. I promise you're going to like it. Anyone can paint. See you next week.